DraftKings wide receiver analysis for Week 15. I'm Jason Gilbert, Gilbo11. With me is Justin Elick at Big Italy 42. Taking a look at wideouts to use this week in cash and GPP. And overall, I mean, this is another week we're looking to pay up at running backs and also kind of keying in on some value wideouts.
Yeah, I mean, right here, these top two guys, really, if I'm paying up, that's who I'm looking at. Beckham, most expensive on FanDuel, but fourth most expensive on DraftKings. Granted, the salary difference isn't much. It's only $400, but, $8K just seems too cheap for him in this matchup. We keep talking about how the Detroit Lions defense is playing better, and obviously it's not one that I'm trying to target with just any receiver anymore. But Beckham, one of those guys that, he literally is the entire offense here. Giants have been inconsistent in the running game. Eli Manning has been, I'd say inconsistent at best. He's just been pretty awful over the past couple of weeks. But, the one constant remains, and that's Beckham getting 10-plus targets, getting looks down the field, getting looks in the red zone. And, the strategy for them this week, if the Lions are scoring points, it's pretty simple. It's get Beckham the ball and let him do the rest of the work because, this defense gets pressure on opposing quarterbacks a lot recently. So, maybe we see a lot of short passes. I think he's going to see a ton of volume this week. So, if you're going to pay all the way up, I think Beckham's the guy I prefer over Evans and Brown this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Just in terms of a consistent volume standpoint, OBJ is going to get it in this matchup. Next guy, volume, it's unmatched by a lot of these guys as well. Jordy Nelson, a little bit of a cheaper price, but in a good spot here again.
Yeah, it's awesome in cash games to target these guys who, have been around with their quarterback forever. And I don't think that any quarterback, aside from maybe Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, have better rapport than, Rodgers and Nelson. Those guys are always on the same page. We talked about the red zone looks for Nelson. We've got 7 more looks inside the red zone than any other receiver, 4 more inside the 10, or 3 more inside the 10 than anybody else. He's just the best red zone target as far as receivers in the NFL, which is crazy to think because, there's so many big receivers, so many elite receivers. But, even a guy like Antonio Brown doesn't get a whole lot of looks down there. He hit most of his are down the field shots from outside the 20. So, if you're looking for a safe option in cash games, you want the guy who's going to get the looks once it gets close. And we thought there was backfield clarity for the Packers, and there just isn't. So, best receiver on one of the hottest offenses in the league, it's kind of a no-brainer play.
Yeah, with the team throwing the ball as much as, Green Bay is right now, it's just kind of easy to fire away with guys like Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
GPP wideouts here, Emmanuel Sanders. So obviously we're coming over from the FanDuel pod. You talked to Marius Thomas there. We're talking the other side. I think a little bit higher upside for Sanders just in terms of kind of having that big play. Both, should see a high volume of targets.
Yeah, and we talked about it's not a bad idea in a GPP or two to throw in both guys because once again, much like the situation with Beckham, there's no running game to speak of here. There's really no third option in the passing game. It's these two guys, and it's a ton of volume. Like, we're looking at last week. We saw 30 targets for these two guys, first and third among all players. Simeon had 51 targets or 51 pass attempts in that game. 30 of them went to those two guys. Aside from 34 targets or 34 attempts, 40, 37, 38 in the previous 4 weeks. These guys are both top 10 in targets. They're getting 10 plus per game. It's easy plays for these guys. And like I mentioned, it's just one of those situations where it's hard to determine who's going to get the touchdowns. So I honestly think I'll probably get exposure to both guys. And I'll throw both in at least one tournament lineup.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind them this week. I think both of them are certainly in play. And they kind of sit in that mid-range where they're not really killing you in price either. And not really killing you in price with this next one, JJ Nelson. 3,900. Obviously, a lot of upside with this guy, kind of that boomer bust play. But the big thing here is Michael Floyd done in AZ.
Yeah, Michael Floyd basically got the free trade to the Patriots. Like, he got the ultimate upgrade. You go get a DUI, and here's your punishment. We're going to cut you from this team that's not going to make the playoffs. You can go play for the best team. And
you can go possibly win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so. It must be nice, These people are going to learn their lessons, right? You go and get a DUI, and they're like, hey, now you play for the Patriots. You're welcome. So, it's whatever. But either way, Palmer, like we mentioned, did not look good last week. I think the leading receiver was Larry Fitzgerald as far as wide receivers went. He had less than 20 yards. It was David Johnson only in that passing game. And we saw Jermaine Gresham had a pretty good game. But I think that's going to be a much different story this week. Obviously, there was some weather concerns there last time. But facing a Saints defense that last week didn't actually play too poorly. And we keep talking about they're sneaky good against the run. But this is still a team that's very poor against the pass. And Nelson, we saw him I think it was an end around. It was a run, 56 yards for a touchdown last week. Caught a short touchdown pass, which is really encouraging with him being more of a deep ball threat normally. So not a high volume play, but, much like Deshaun Jackson we had last week, we're talking about, you take that one shot down the field, you don't need a guy to get 8 or 10 targets. You get that 60-yard touchdown. I mean, you're good, especially at $3,900.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, with the price tag, I mean, it's fairly low risk, especially in a team total like that, in a matchup like that. I'd have to imagine he comes out and just still kind of hits value either way.
Yeah, that's what I'm banking on. And I mean, certainly the sky's the limit with him too.
Yeah. Value wideouts here, and DK going through the player pool. It was the names that you saw kind of down below. Allen Robinson, and I love that you put quote unquote here. I don't have the stomach to roster him at 4,400 this week. I'm not taking the bait. I'm with you. I think you just don't go back to that pool.
I mean, it's so tempting. Like you got. I mean, Marvin Jones had a couple of big games early season. He's down there. Randall Cobb is down there. I mean, that $4,400 tag for. I wish I could just, the self-exclusion things I keep sending everybody now, and they keep saying, hey, look at this. In case you can't stop. Like, I wish I could just say, can you just exclude me from being able to play Allen Robinson? Because there's no way that I'll probably end up playing him on one. I keep saying that I'm not going to, but that price is just so good. But, I mean, he's not even getting – I don't think he's had a red zone target in 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, he's a bad play. He's just such a bad play. I mean,
it's because Bortles is rushing touchdowns for like 23 yards out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it pays off, it pays off. I think he's going to have a stupid high ownership for a guy that, just has been horrible recently and not even getting looks. So I don't think he's a good play at all. But either way, getting back to the guy we're actually talking about, Rashard Matthews, it's a tough play here as well. I mean, it's not an ideal matchup, but, there's a Chiefs defense that, despite being one of the better units, they're an opportunistic unit. They're one that scores touchdowns on defense. They score special teams touchdowns. They put up big totals there. But, yardage-wise, they still give up some points. They give up some ball movement. And Mariota was horrible last week against the Broncos. So I think a lot of people will be just completely avoiding the Titans. And I'm not playing a guy like Delaney Walker. He's going to probably see Eric Berry sometimes. And, I mean, that's just not going to be a good situation. But Derek Johnson now gone from this defense, ruptured his Achilles. That's a big loss for them. So obviously he wouldn't be in coverage anyway with Matthews. But, before last week's game for Matthews where he got shut down by the Broncos, as you would expect, I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in 5 weeks. So I think at this price for a guy who everyone was all about 3-4 weeks ago, now all of a sudden it's one bad game and, I haven't heard a word about him all week.
Yeah, I mean, this is still – Rashard Matthews is still kind of the go-to guy there for Mariota right now. I mean, tough matchup last week, as you put it, inexcusable for performance, which, I think anyone at this point against Denver, you're just like, okay. You always look through the game logs and go, oh, had a down week, whatever. That's fine.
You see that one catch for 9 yards or whatever it is that most players have at least one of, and you figure it's Denver, and you're like, oh, we're good.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, next one here, Adam Thielen, 4,800, seen a bigger role here of late. I honestly don't think Stephon Diggs is healthy.
Yeah, and I think the last time I played Diggs was, that the first of those big games where he had in that 3-game stretch there, where he had that game against Chicago, and he had 3 huge games in a row. And then now, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm with you. I don't think he looks good. I mean, granted, the matchups recently haven't been great. Arizona, tough matchup. Dallas defense played well in that game. Jacksonville's been pretty good against the pass, but Thielen's been still getting it done. Kind of like in the Julian Edelman type role for him. He's getting volume, not seeing a lot of looks down the field, but I mean the guy's got tremendous hands. And I mean, you look at his long. I mean, he had a 41-yard catch last week, but aside from that, I mean, he hasn't had a 30-yard catch since week 5. So volume play right there. I think he's a good cash game play. We know that the Colts have not been a good defense against the pass or the run, and bottom 5 against both. So, I mean, once again, volume alone type of thing. If you want just a safe option, he does have a 100-yard upside. He's hit it a couple times this year, but you're not banking on a touchdown. But 7 for 70 type of game for him at under 5K. I mean, that's a nice lineup filler right there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, good matchup here. I mean, reasonable team total. I'm curious to see ownership on DraftKings. I think a lot of people are just going to be kind of going with the obvious Kyle Rudolph, tight ends against Indy, but Thielen's an interesting play this week, especially on a PPR site like DK.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan.
That's going to wrap it up with the DraftKings wide receiver analysis for Week 15. If you want to check out Justin's article, you can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. It's up on the site. Be sure to check out the rest of our Week 15 content.